Hello there and welcome to another video, nothing to do with CB radio whatsoever, but to do more with vintage ham radio. So I couldn't resist buying a Benton Harbor Lunchbox, which is on 2 meters. This is the HW30 Heathkit transceiver from about 1961. They have a super regenerative receiver, single channel transmitter, and the crystal is inconveniently inside the product, so you can't really change channel from the one which you have made. We're currently having one made right now for the UK centre band of activity for 2 meters AM, and it has cost an arm and a leg. I think it was £29 for one crystal, so that's kind of £30 too much, isn't it? So you'll notice it's got a single pin microphone socket, which is kind of coaxial arrangement. I found out these are used on electronic harmonicas and managed to get a plug. So it's looking for a high impedance microphone because it's a 4-valve circuit, 2 in transmit, 2 in receive. American viewers, of course, that's tubes. And so we needed a high impedance microphone, and so I have guessed by managing to get hold of a Pi Telecommunications tulip bass microphone from the late 1950s when their products were also valved. The first thing we're going to do is change the capacitors. There's electrolytic capacitors in there. We're not going to plug it in yet. But Mr Chippie is here. I managed to persuade him to come, and we're going to take the back off and we're going to change the 4 electrolytic capacitors which we have ordered and have now arrived. So bear with us whilst we open it up. So that's it with the lid off. You can see straight away Mr Chippie will point out the 2 big electrolytics there, which we're going to change without even testing, bearing in mind this is 57 years old. And if you turn it over, Mr C, as you see, there's 4 valves in there. I think we're going to be changing that. We'll probably put something underneath rather than actually take the big filter capacitor out. Point the big filter capacitor, there we go. The crystal goes in on the left. Can you see where the crystal goes? We can't get what is that? Something like a 143. I think we've had to order HC6/U and we'll have to change the socket. So that's where we are so far with it. There was something else I was going to mention, but I've totally forgotten, so we'll come back to that when I remember. Okay, so back with the Heathkit 2 meter AM transceiver. We've taken Mr Chippie's taken out the capacitors underneath. He's also taken out the CAN electrolytic, and what we've decided to do is to rebuild it. As you know, both he and I have been doing electronics for decades, and we've never restuffed a capacitor because we've just replaced them. But in this case, it's not because it's some wonderful vintage thing that we want to preserve. It would make it more convenient for future serviceability if the pins shown in the assembly manual do exactly what they're supposed to do. If we start bodging capacitors underneath, yes, it would work, but a subsequent person may end up having this and then they think, what's happening here? So we'll do it as it should be. So we're stuffing the capacitor, we've taken the works out, he's cut the let's just put the camera so we can actually see what he's doing. He's put the there we go, he's cut it open with a Dremel type of tool, which is there. It's one come out of Aldi or Lidl, and so that's made a nice neat cut. He's put the 2 400 volt, well, we've ordered 400 volt, just looking at the circuit diagram. I've got the assembly manual on order, it's not arrived yet, and these are 40 microfarads at 250 volts, I think, or is it 450 volts? Got the wrong glasses on. Anyway, they're 47s at 450 volts. Then the other 2 capacitors, 20 at 25 volts, and we've got 22 at 25 volts. Just looking towards the other side of the bench, I'll just kind of go into handheld mode, and those 2 capacitors there are the ones which will be replacing 200 at 250 volts, I think they are. And so on the back of the radio, the power connector is an octal plug, so it's an octal chassis plug, and so that is of course 8 pin. and I've been able to source the octal sockets for a flying lead from RS Components. In fact, there's one just by the soldering iron. If we can actually move the camcorder, there it is next to that scalpel. So it's a cable plug, and we've managed to get those from RS Components here in the UK. I would have liked to have changed that chassis socket because the locating spigot has snapped off, and what Mr Chippie's done is to araldite it back on. Now, in this radio is for us, and we're not going to be disturbing it, but you know, it's Bakelite, it's 57 years old, and you know, that's par for the course, isn't it? But I couldn't get a replacement, so that's how it is. We've stuck it back together. So this is a very short video of kind of work in progress. Oh, he's labelled. You'll notice he's got stickers on the inside. We've got one of those, not a Dymo label, it's a brother one, and because you've got 4 different connections to the can electrolytic which he's restuffing, what he's done is to label the wires he's taken off correspondingly to triangle, D, square and line, so he can put them back on. Yes, I know we're going to have the assembly manual coming, but it's just a bit of double indemnity. So that's what we're up to on the 5 watt AM 2 meter transmitter. And if you're watching these sequentially, we haven't uploaded the receive side of the Apex 520 UHF crystal controlled handheld from Maxon. The radio did get done, but it's actually still on the bench, and the recording is still in the digital video recorder which is on that bench. So that's still kind of work in progress, because there just hasn't been time over the Christmas period, because I'm recording this 5th of January 2020. So it's just not been busy with me working as a church organist as well as a church organ builder, as well as doing these electronics jobs. It's very busy over Christmas, and anyway, we'll get back onto some of these jobs hopefully now. So I'm going to upload this, and I hope some of you are still using 2 meters AM, and you never know what, we may end up with a contact. So thanks for watching, and we'll hopefully get some more videos up very shortly.